Today I'm going to take a look at two riffs from my song The Fourth Wall. This was the song I released this month for the Prog School. And these two riffs might seem very different, but they're both based on the same melodic idea. So I'm going to show you how I created that in the first one and then how I changed it for the second riff. If you watch my masterclass lesson on the one rest trick which accompanies this song, I talk about the rhythm for both of these riffs, but I'll go over that here as well. Both of these riffs are based off a line cliche. And a line cliche is where you have one root note underneath, and then you have a note on top that's moving up or down chromatically. So underneath this first riff, we have the note G. And on top of that, first we have a D, so like a power chord. And then that top note's going to move around. So first it goes to D. Then it goes to D flat. Then it goes to C. Then D, then E flat, then E natural, then F, and E. So the top note is like this. And that's all happening with that G sustaining note underneath. So that's the sound if I hold that note underneath. And you'll notice like the second half of that sounds kind of like James Bond, right? And I actually called this particular progression the James Bond progression in my masterclass lesson. This top note of the line cliche is moving around within the riff. It's not happening as chords. So what we have in the first half of this is really based off a blues scale. And that's a pattern of 4 with an eighth note rest, another pattern of 4 with an eighth note rest, and then a pattern of 3 with an eighth note rest. So 4, 4, 3. Second half is a pattern of 4, 4, and then 1. So 4, 4, 1. When I say 4, 4, and 1, I'm talking about the amount of notes that are being played, not the total amount of beats this is taking up. Because there's one rest after each one of these patterns. That's kind of the idea behind the one rest trick. So let me play this whole riff slowly. And the second time through, it's exactly the same except for the last two chords are. So I'm dropping the notes F and E down an octave. So there's the first riff and how I constructed it. Now let's take a look at how I modified that idea for the second faster riff. This second riff happens in two different keys. It starts in E minor and then modulates directly up to G minor. For the sake of this lesson, I'll show you it in G minor first, since that's the same key as the first riff I showed. That way you can get an idea of how these notes are translating from the first riff to the second riff. This second riff has a different rhythm, this time in 21/8. And this is divided as 3 groups of 4 and 2 groups of 2. Now each one of these groups has a single eighth note rest after it. So it's done like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. What happens in this riff is that there's a doubled up variation of this rhythm. So I'm going to take these 4 eighth notes and turn them into 6 16th notes and 1 eighth note. And that just gives you a faster version of this rhythm. This ramps up the intensity for this riff and gives it a more virtuosic feel. Here's how this riff starts in G minor. And if we look at that compared to our first riff, you can see where the D flat would hit. In the first riff is also where D flat's hitting in our second riff. And then the second part where D hits is also where D hits in the faster riff. The third fragment of this riff looks like this. It's going back and forth between that D flat and C. Very similar to how it happens in the first riff. Because the rhythms are different between this riff and the first riff, what I need to do is add a few extra notes to this second riff because the rhythm for this riff is longer than the rhythm for the first riff. So what I do is to do another line cliche idea. D to D flat. The second half of this faster riff has the same line cliche as the second half of the first riff, and that looked like this. So what I'm going to do here is to target those notes within these faster runs. So you have D, E flat, E natural, F, E. So here's this whole second riff in G minor played slowly. As I mentioned earlier, this riff starts in E minor and then modulates up to G minor. So for the E minor portion, you have the exact same notes, you're just 3 frets down or a minor third down. This actually makes it quite a bit easier to play because you have an open E string that you can pedal off of. And that looks like this. And up to speed. For playing these riffs, I'm using strict alternate picking on both of them. And that's not too tricky on the first riff because it's 8th notes, but this second riff has a lot of 16th notes, and we're at a tempo of 180 beats per minute, so that's really fast. And what I'm doing is really targeting the first note of each of these groups, and if I do that, it makes it much easier for me to put all the other notes within that time period. So that one, for example. If I target the first of each of those groups, it makes it a lot easier for me to play. So there's a couple of the riffs from the fourth wall. You can find the full guitar tabs for this song on my Bandcamp and also my Gumroad. There's a lot of cool guitar things happening throughout the entire song, and it's pretty fun to play, so if you want to, go ahead and pick those up and try some of this stuff out for yourself. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, comment, like, share, all that good stuff. Until next time, stay proggy.